Hey guys, Joe Madden here. This is the Joe Madden Sports Show. I'm joined this afternoon by Dave Ross of Veasan. Dave, welcome to the show.
Joe, it's a great intro, by the way. I was starting to move a little bit with the graphics move. It's really cool to catch up with you, Joe. Love what you do, and really excited to join you. And hopefully, everybody gets a little bit of an education of what we like, maybe in Thursday Night Football and beyond. But a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. It feels like I said off air, we've known each other for quite a long time just by following you on social media. We played the GIF game back and forth. It's great to be able to sit here and talk to you though today.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot of fun. It makes me feel like I'm 10 years old when I'm on Twitter using GIFs. So I don't have kids, but if I did, I feel like I would at least be able to be on par with them on the GIF game. That's all I got on Twitter.
Absolutely. Are you a meme sender to your friends?
Yeah, I do, but I'll try to do some of the similar GIFs that I use on Twitter that you and I, if we're talking coffee, sports, whatever it might be, I'll use a lot of those to my family and friends too. And they just kind of roll their eyes like, here he goes.
Life is too short to roll your eyes over those. They're so much fun. They're the highlight of my day when people send me those crazy ones. So I like it.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I'm like, it makes me feel like a kid again.
It sure does. Let's talk about you, Dave. How'd you get started in this crazy industry?
Wow, Joe. I'll give you guys the Cliff Notes version. For those of you guys that know me, know this has been my life ever since I was very young. I always wanted to be involved in sports in some way, shape, or form, sports broadcasting. I did have a brief foray where I joined the Marine Corps for 6 years. And even in my time in the Marine Corps, all I wanted to talk about and debate was sports. So even then, as a youngster, I knew that I eventually wanted to get into this crazy business. And I started after I got out of the Marine Corps at Fox in Washington, D.C., doing sports for them. And I basically worked there and grew up in the sports business for about 18 years at Fox in D.C., covering the team formerly known as the Redskins, now the Commanders, of course, in Washington, D.C. When the Washington Nationals began baseball, I was one of the first people there to cover them. In the mid-2000s, of course, the Washington Capitals with Alexander Ovechkin, and covering his great run, seeing him from his rookie year on. So Washington, D.C. sports was a great foray into becoming a broadcaster. And then I got a job offer in 2013 to go to Chicago, Illinois, and join a company called 120 Sports, which is now Stadium, for those of you that might access Stadium across various platforms. And really, Joe, that was a integral part of where I am today here to get to Veasan, which is I saw the change from traditional TV in 2013 to a digital platform like we're doing right now. And that's what 120 Sports, which then became and morphed into Stadium, has become. And I really enjoyed my 8 years there. Great company, great people that have now gone on to many different things, like my buddy Tyler Fulgham over at ESPN. He and I had a show together in Chicago. And that brought me to Veasan last year. I've been out here for 1 year in Las Vegas and now do a weekly show with Amal Shaw. We have a ton of fun called Big Bets on Veasan from 11 to 1 Pacific time, 2 to 4. I always have to do that math in my head, Eastern Standard Time for everybody out there. And Amal and I go Monday through Friday talking all gambling aspects in the world of sports. But I loved gambling, Joe, as a youngster. And then as it became mainstream in the, around 2015, I really started to change. And I knew this was an industry I wanted to get into. And as you know, it's exploding right now. So being with Veasan out here in Las Vegas for the last year has really been an eye-opener about the potential of our industry, because it's not going to get smaller. It's only getting bigger.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with gambling becoming illegal in so many states and more to come. Where did the love, Dave, though, come of sports? Did you grow up in a sports family?
Boy, it's so funny because really I was kind of the nut job as the kid of my family. I have a brother that loves movies and sisters that were into dance, but not really hardcore sports. And I think I picked it up at a very young age from my father watching the Cowboys and Steelers early in my childhood, watching Super Bowls. And I saw how emotionally attached he was to the game. And I think it just gravitated my way towards certainly the NFL. I'm a big Cowboy fan. And then as that's morphed, I love obviously the NBA, Major League Baseball, and mixed martial arts. I do a podcast each and every week called First Strike on Veasan. So really, Joe, for me, I've been married to sports my whole life. And I always say, I'll never cheat on anybody, but I will cheat on you with sports because I'm going to watch them all. That's for sure.
I love it. That's a great saying. Where did the gift of the gab come from? Because you sure can talk, Dave.
I think that I wrote a book when I was much younger in the 90s about the Dallas Cowboys. It's called A Dynasty Restored, when the Cowboys won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls in the mid 90s. And Joe, the way I mentioned in my book there is that when I would go to the lunch table in high school, even junior high, and I saw my friends at the table, it was like combat every day, but verbal. And we're going to debate our teams. We're going to debate our topics. And that's the way I've always approached life. And I mean, as serious as a sports conversation would be, and I still take it seriously, but you still realize you're talking about sports. So that's the way me and my friends, who are still dear friends to this day from grade school, we still debate sports each and every day. And I have always looked at it like that's the way I want to win. I want to win that debate. I want to try to win that argument, even though a lot of times you can't and you're going to have a difference of opinion. The one way you can win or lose is certainly in our space in gambling, picking winners, and when you're on the wrong side. So it's been a lot more, I guess, quantitative now when you switch over into sports gambling versus just sports in general. But I love a good debate, and certainly I love a good conversation about sports and just about any sport.
Yeah, I can see that. You seem like a very good debater. I'd hate to be on the opposite team if we're on a debate team. So
yes,
teams, take me. I want on your side.
We're in.
Let's talk about that longtime friendship that you've managed to have. Not many people can say that.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate. And again, like I said, I'm not going to tell my age here, but I'll say it goes back to 5th grade, growing up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And some of those friends are still my dearest friends to this day. And most of them, married, kids. But yet when it comes to sports, that's always been the common bond, right? So even some of my friends that I mentioned from that long ago, we try to get together every year and do a sporting event. Like last year, we got together about 12 of us and went to South Bend, Indiana, and watched USC play Notre Dame. And we try to pick a sport, maybe a venue we haven't been to before, and then we all decide on. And it's a good way to keep us all at least in contact, and certainly try to plan once a year. Now that I'm out here in Las Vegas, we're going to do that for the NCAA tournament and a lot of the conference finals games that are going to be played out here in Las Vegas. So we might do that this year and bring them out to the desert and watch some college basketball. But it's always been my bond, Joe. It's always been the way that I've related to people. And I still do. If I see somebody that I've never met and they got a Cowboy shirt on, I might say, hey, go Cowboys. And that could strike up a conversation. It's just sports has always been the one thing that no matter who you are, where you are, if I know that you're a sports fan, I'm sure there's something we're going to have in common, and we can find a common bond and have hopefully a good conversation about.
It definitely unites us better than anything. I love the fact that you're yelling across the room at that Cowboys fan. I was in Nashville for the opening weekend, and I saw a Chargers fan. I had my jersey on. I went down the street, knocked on this guy's back. I'm like, hey, go Chargers. And he turned around so confused at first, then saw my Chargers jersey, gave me a high five. So
yeah, I totally get it. I mentioned Tyler Fulgham, who does a great job on Daily Wager at ESPN. He and I had a show called Sauce and Shram back in Chicago. And Shrammy, as I call him, he calls me Sauce. He and I, and if you talk to him, he'll tell you the same thing. We don't see eye to eye on just about any sport. And we would go at it like cats and dogs every day, on and off the air. Sometimes they'd stop the camera, the show's over. We've carried into the green room for 2-3 hours. And people are like, you guys just go at it. He's one of my best friends. Like we have a great friendship, but when it comes to sports, it's like a dog and a bone. We're not going to let it go. And that's just the way I've always been. And I love that. I love that people can have a differing of opinion, differing of teams, differing of coaching philosophies. And I'm fascinated by it. And certainly even in what we do now, Joe, with analytics really being such a huge part of the way coaches, certainly in the NFL, attack it. Major League Baseball, we've seen it with the managers. But really in gambling, you can kind of equate it to the gambling space here. And sometimes you can realize quickly, man, that coach is probably not going to play or call the game the way I want him to. I better know that before I figure out which side I want to be on.
Those coaches, I tell you, sometimes their decisions can be so frustrating. That's for sure. Have you had an aha moment I've made it moment? Because you've had so many amazing moments in your career. I know that.
Joe, it's a great question. I try not to I don't know that I get awestruck anymore because I've had the good fortune of coming across a lot of different people, celebrities, athletes, of course, through the years. Like, Roger Federer just retired here
Yeah.
from tennis, and I had the good privilege of having a one-on-one with Roger a few years ago in Chicago. And it's just like, sometimes you go, wow, I'm just having a chat with Roger Federer. It's pretty cool. I was in Detroit one year when I was back in DC covering the Washington football team. This is, I believe, 2011. And behind my camera is Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise sees me and I go, hey, Tom, like I know Tom Cruise, right? And he looks back at me and he goes, hey, Dave. And then my camera guy looks at me and he goes, he said Dave. And I'm like, yeah, how does he know who I am? So I ended up striking up a conversation with Tom Cruise, and he was a fan of the pregame show. He watched me back in DC and had a great conversation with him, just like by happenstance. So it's like sports has really been a way for me to see different parts of the country, and certainly meet different athletes and people that I still call friends to this day, who are former athletes that I've come across through the years, and have a lot of those guys on my show, a lot of those men and women, and certainly even in the UFC, right? Like, I would get early on in the UFC, Conor McGregor would come on and do a one-on-one with me. Now, it's a little bit different now once some of these people blow up, like Ronda Rousey in her heyday. And, just having the really good fortune of being in the right place at the right time a lot of times. But really, I do have a passion for this, Joe, and you know this. Yeah. You wouldn't be doing what you did if you didn't love what you do. And I hope that translates and that comes across when I talk to the athletes or talk about sports, because it's not fabricated. It's my life. It's what I absolutely love to do on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah, you can absolutely tell your love and passion for this industry. Who's been your biggest supporter all along? Because this isn't an industry that a lot of people go into. No one grows up like their parents dreaming of them being in the sports betting, the sports gambling, talking sports industry. They dream of us being doctors. So how did who supported you?
Oh, this is the easiest answer of all time. It is my mother. She is my saint. Like, in mom's eyes, I can do no wrong. Like, if Tyler and I were having an argument, or Amal now, if we're doing the show together on Big Bets, mom's always going to take my side. But the best part about mom is she doesn't know mixed martial arts, but she watches First Strike every week because she likes the interaction. She likes the conversation. And so I think I get this. And I always tell this. I said, Ma, I get this from you, even though she has very little interest in sports in general. Yep. It's the way that I've seen her communicate with her friends growing up, with my relatives, with my family, with my immediate family. And I think that's where I get it from, really. And I've just translated that into sports. So she watches and listens as much as she can. She's back home in Virginia Beach, and she'll watch this too. And Joe, she's going to love you, and she'll ask questions about you. That's the way she is. She's inquisitive with people that I talk to. And that support of knowing that, your mother, and certainly my family in general, and my friends are a great source for me, because they're going to give it to me straight. If they don't like something, they're not going to hem and haw about it. They're going to let me know. But mom has been the biggest support that I've had. And certainly in my Marine Corps time, and then every day after the Marine Corps, I always tell mom, every day's gravy, because you're not getting shot at. It's not that serious. It's just sports. So yes, we want to win all those bets. We want to give the people the best advice we can possibly give. But in the end, if you're talking about sports, you're probably having a pretty good day.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to your mama. Tell her I appreciate her supporting you, because you are just crushing it in this industry, Dave.
That is so sweet of you to say. But no, it is. And Joe, this. You've got to have people in your corner, right? Yeah, because you got to know that what you're doing, if you can reach, like if I know that mom is entertained by what she's going to watch when she watches this, I've done my job. I've done my job for the day, right? Because I know it put a smile on her face, and that's going to translate to somebody else. So I always put it in a really small context of, like, if what we do at VSiN on a daily basis with them all, if he and I can be informative, obviously, but hopefully entertaining as well, so that you'll want to watch, you'll want to engage, you'll want to know why we're talking about what we're talking about, then we're going to bring you back, and hopefully you're coming back for seconds. And that's the way I look at it. If we can do that, have a good time, and be as informative as possible, then we've done our job for the day.
Okay, so we talked about your biggest supporter, your mama. Let's talk. You have 2 siblings, brother and sister?
Joe, it's such a long. It's like the Brady Bunch. I've got 5 of natural brothers and sisters,
Yep.
including myself, and 4 step brothers and sisters. But we don't call them step because we're all so young in the melting pot. So I've got them scattered all over the United States. Huge family, ton of fun. Yes, the daily group text might get a little bit laborious when you get the bings, 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 but everybody's either sharing their day from Seattle, Washington, in New York City, Virginia Beach, I'm in Vegas. We are all over the place, and it really does keep things a lot of fun and very interesting.
I love that. Sounds like a big supportive family. I have a brother. My brother loves to make blooper reels of any time I screw anything up. You got anyone in your family like that?
Oh, of course. By the way, that's a great brother. Any brother that's taking the blooper reels, that's the most fun. Yeah, my brothers and sisters will get on me, and I can't wait for Thanksgiving. We're all going home to Virginia Beach. It's our annual tradition to get everybody together. And you got to have thick skin in our family, Joe, because like your brother, we're gonna take our shots at you in a good-natured way, but it does keep it much more interesting and certainly a lot of fun, and keeps you on your toes too, which I like.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Let's talk some Thursday night football. We've got a great matchup tonight, Dave. We got the Miami Dolphins taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Any thoughts on this game? You got any picks for us?
I do. Now, here's the thing, Joe. Earlier in the week, I was really liking the Fish, and I'm thinking, all right, 3-0 Miami. And then you really look at the grueling way they won it against Buffalo. The heat, the exhaustion, the injuries the Dolphins have right now, and certainly to that secondary, is not good news against Joe Burrow and company tonight in Cincinnati. I've kind of switched my tune a little bit. I have not played the side, but I think if you pin me down, I would probably play the Bengals. I saw it's 3.5 now. It got as high as 4. If you could get 3s, I would grab those with the Bengals because I do like that, but I'm not going to play it. I did play the over earlier in the week at 46.5. That's now as high as 48.5. So you know how this goes with closing line value. That doesn't mean you're going to win the wager, but at least I feel like I'm on the right side of where the market has gone here in the last 4 days. I do think you're going to get points. Look, Joe Burrow, the offensive line was a mess the first 2 weeks, and the Bengals did not look like a team that went to the Super Bowl a year ago with the way they just couldn't protect Joe Burrow. It got better in week 3 against the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but it did get a little bit better. If they can keep Burrow upright tonight, he's going to have some opportunities to make big plays in the passing game. Bengals really have not been running the ball well so far in the first 3 weeks of the season. So I look for the aerial attack here. And the same for Miami. They're going to have to try to keep pace. We know Tua's banged up here. They say it's not concussion protocol, that it's just the back. We'll find out about that. But if he can't go, or Joe, he looks like he's really banged up early, I don't mind Teddy Two Gloves. If Teddy Bridgewater comes in this game, that's a veteran backup there. I think they'll be getting some points. I like the Miami Dolphins to get at least in the 20s in this one, and I certainly see the same for the Bengals, if not in the 30s. So I think the over, again, it might be getting a little bit mispriced now at 48.5, but at 46.5, I do like that play.
Okay, so when you're looking at this total, are you expecting more points to come in by the Cincinnati Bengals? Like, would that be a team total we should be looking at, or Miami's team total? Okay.
Yes, Joe, you nailed it. I think that's a great call. If you're worried that the Dolphins can't keep pace and don't want to play the game total, I would look at a team total for the Bengals because I just don't see scenarios where Miami really slows them down. Again, unless the pass rush can get home for the Dolphins. But with all the snaps that defense collectively took on Sunday, I'd be surprised if in the second half those legs didn't show a little bit and a little bit slower off the ball in the second half. So maybe the Dolphins might be live for 30 minutes, but I do think in the second half the Bengals should be able to take over. And again, I easily see them scoring 24 minimum, but I certainly like them to be closer to a 30-point total tonight. I'd be stunned, really, Joe, if the Bengals didn't get at least 30 tonight.
Yeah, I would too. I really think Burrows is in for a great passing night. Like you said, that aerial attack against Miami's defense that is struggling in that secondary. So it should be a good game. I'm not looking for a snooze fest tonight. I don't think we've got one. Fingers crossed. We know anything can happen in football.
Absolutely. That's what I'd like to see here again. Earlier in the week, I did tease up one play with the Dolphins before I really got into the weeds. And I got them plus 9.5, which I think is a good total to find a dance partner on Sunday or Monday. But if one team is going to blow out another, I think it's the Bengals blowing out the Dolphins. I'd be stunned. Again, as you mentioned, anything can happen. I'd be stunned if it's the other way around. But hopefully for me, it's going to fall in that spectrum of Bengals winning, but hopefully not more than double digits.
I'm hoping you are right, because I'm riding the same way. We've got a question in here. If you guys know anything about me, it is I cannot be scripted. I cannot be teleprompted. I'm a terrible reader when something's in front of me because I'm a speed reader. We'll try to get this question to you the best we can. Benjamin's just coming in here saying football and basketball betting seems to be much more a stable game. Any thoughts on betting baseball at all, Dave?
Great question, Benjamin. I do look at first fives in baseball a lot because I know sometimes you get into those bullpens and variance might happen a little bit later in games. You saw it last night, let's say with the Metropolitans down 4-0 to Miami. And then what happens? They get 2 in the 7th, couple in the 8th, and they end up winning that thing 5-4. So if you had the Marlins first 5, you felt pretty good and you won that wager, even though for the game it didn't hit. So really for baseball, the way I look at it is I want to look at those starters. And if I feel like I have a distinctive advantage with those starting pitchers, I might be more apt to play a first 5 than I would for the whole game. Look, I'm old. Back in the day, pitchers used to go 9. I mean, they give you complete games and you could trust the starting pitcher for the long haul. That day is long gone. You just don't see complete games anymore. So at some point, you got to really evaluate the back end of that bullpen in Major League Baseball in order for your wager to win pre-flop. But that's why I like first 5s. And look, I can't wait for this Braves and Mets series starting tomorrow night. Could decide the NL East. You look at a game like Max Fried against Jacob deGrom in game 1. I haven't seen the total yet in the first 5. I got to imagine, Joe, it's probably going to be 3. It's probably going to be 3.
Yeah.
Where are you getting 4 runs? Like, that's the way I look at it. So, like, to me, it's going to be a low-scoring affair, at least in the first 5, if these guys are who we know them to be. So I might be more apt to look at a first 5 scenario versus when those guys come out of the game. Then I got to trust a bullpen.
I cannot wait to see who takes the World Series this year. It's going to be definitely a race. Dave, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on the Joe Madden Sports Show. Where can everyone find you? Where can they find your shows?
They can find VSiN 5 days a week with Amal Shaw. It's called Big Bets. We are on again 11-1 Pacific time. That's 2-4 my East Coast time there, Joe. So you can check us out 5 days a week there on VSiN. And also First Strike. It's going to be wherever you get your podcast. Those come out on Fridays as we break down the UFC card each and every week. I've got a great crew that joins me weekly on that show. And on Tuesdays, I do First Strike, First Look, which is essentially, Joe, what we're trying to do is find the marketplace, look at some of those fights before we get to Saturday and see if there's any lines that might be able to be better value on a Tuesday before they really switch as you get closer to fight times on Fridays and Saturdays. So wherever you get your podcast, check out First Strike. You can follow me on Twitter. Beware, if you follow me on Twitter, Joe and I like to have a lot of fun on there as well. It's sometimes said a lot in jest. So it's just social media, people. I don't take it too seriously. I'm D-Raw Sports on there. But if you like to have a good time, give me a follow. And I'm sure you'll see where the humor is coming from. Yeah,
you guys absolutely go give Dave a follow on all social media. Dave, one last question. I'm pretty sure you're one of the golden children in your family. You got a shout out for your mom. Anything you want to say to her before we finish this off?
There's no way Mom could ever play favorites, but I appreciate that she's had all of our backs, not just mine, but I will say that I'm such a mama's boy. And, that's the way my career, I feel like it's been stimulated by knowing Mom can watch and listen. So that makes me happy knowing that I've given her some enjoyment for the day, for all the enjoyment she's given me. I wouldn't be here without Mom. So Ma, I love you. Thank you for watching and listening always.
Dave, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Keep crushing it. I love all the content you're putting out. Can't wait to have some more GIF wars with you. You guys, put a GIF below on Twitter of what you thought of the show. That could be a lot of fun as well.
Absolutely, Joe. You're the best. Really enjoyed it. And then one day we'll have that cup of coffee together.
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much. You guys, I'll be back tomorrow with another Joe Madden Sports Show. Make sure you go give Dave Ross a follow. Thanks, Dave.